whenever we want to start modeling and assembly, we first need to take a step back and do some planning. The first step in that planning is figuring out what all the parts in the assembly are going to be and how they're grouped together into sub-assemblies. And then within that process, we can also figure out names for things and part numbers and things like that. So whether you're going off something that's already existing, like this table here, or you're designing your own thing, the first step is figuring out all the pieces. So if you're designing your own thing, get out a piece of paper, sketch out kind of the overall, how it's going together, how it fits together, what the different pieces are, and then that way we can start breaking it up and identifying every little piece that's going to be in the assembly. If you don't get every single detail, that's okay, but the more you can do at the beginning, the easier the project is. So I have this table here, and if I look at it, I can see that's got a tabletop here. It looks like it's got a laminate surface on it, probably top and bottom. It's got an edge molding here. Looks like it's probably a T-molding going around the outside. So this top is going to be an assembly of those different pieces. We also have these leg sections. So there's a beam going across the top, down, over, and up. It's not going to be a milled out of a solid piece. It's going to be some tubing. It's got some brackets here. It's got some stud knobs here, or nuts. Either way, probably better to have this being the stud going up into a T-nut in the top. We've got some levelers down here, probably not threading into the side of the tubing, probably going into a weld nut or something like that also. So we're going to start making what I call a core sheet of this, so figuring out what the different steps of the assembly are. So I'm going to call it here the full assembly, as that is the major, the overall thing that's finished. And in that, it's going to have a top assembly, a leg assembly, and we're also going to have the levelers. Probably put those on at the end, not just part of that the leg assembly, and also the knobs, the stud knobs that attach attach the legs to the top. So those are going to all be the four things that come in at the last assembly. So if this is going out to customer, they're going to get a box. It's going to have these four major parts. They're going to have one of these. So maybe I can put a quantity in there. Let me just put it in here. I'm going to have one of those. I'll have two of those. I'll have four of those. I'll have four of those, or 2, 3, 4. I'll have 8 of those, based on what I can see from this. I'm not saying this is a good design or not. I'm just saying based on what I see here, that's what I would do. So now I go to the top, and I'm going to break that down. So I'm going to have the actual top with high pressure laminate. Or, call out melamine, MDF with melamine, or whatever that is. It's going to have brackets. So just a single, and we're going to have 2 of those. We're going to have the horizontal pieces. Again, 2 of those. And the vertical piece with 2 of those. And that's per assembly. So we're going to have 4 total, but within each leg assembly, we're only going to have 2 of those. Oops. Those are going to go down here into the leg assembly. Let's get back to the top. So the top of the high pressure laminate, we're going to have the T-mold. We're going to have some T-nuts. And that's probably it. And again, the T-mold, we're going to have it whatever the length is. The T-nuts, we'll have 8 of those. So now the leg assembly. Brackets, those, and then weld nuts. And we're going to have 2 of those. And so, kind of going into this, now I have kind of a overall view of what parts I'm going to need for this assembly. And so now I can kind of come through and start making some part numbers for these things. So I'm just going to make up a number. So my top assembly, I'm just going to call it maybe use that size, T60 30, and that's going to be this part. So now that top assembly, I'm going to call that same number -1. Then I'll call the leg assembly come on, copy paste -2. And I want to call this one 1A, 1B. So now I can, by looking at this top, I can know that this part is going to be part of that assembly. And I'm going to go down here, A, B, C. You notice I took those off there because these are going to be purchase parts. I'm not going to need to give my own part number to them. I'll use the part number from wherever I get them. So I'm going to do this, and this is going to be my sub-assembly here, and or my assembly, my core sheet. So I know what the parts are, how I'm going to organize them, so that way as I start making my pieces, I can know, okay, I need to pick this part, put these together into this assembly, and you make these parts, make this assembly, and then make this assembly with these things. And that'll have me plan and work on creating my assembly.